Well, welcome to the Sunday afternoon Dhamma talk. We're all friends here. Everybody has a say so. All they have to do is raise their hand on the video. Uh, this is a kind of an open conversation, but it is not a lecture. Today we have a couple of questions to be answered. The one that we're going to start with is anxiety. And anxiety actually is one of many people's favorite bad feelings. We have actually favorite bad feelings. Uh, Let me take a poll. What's your favorite bad feeling? Anna, what's your favorite bad feeling? Oh, Jonas left. Okay. So, Anna, what's your favorite bad feeling?
It is an anxiety.
Anxiety, huh? Gary, what's your favorite bad feeling?
Oh, it's probably going back into the past and finding some situation that I didn't come out of very well and imagining what might have happened if I'd been bigger and stronger and had a big bat to rearrange the other person's face with.
Okay.
In other words, revenge.
Yeah,
probably.
Revenge.
Except, of course, it's pointless because it didn't happen. It never will happen. You can't rerun the past. But now the question, perhaps, that comes from this is, at what point do you stop it? I mean, you're at what point in the cycle of dependent arising are you when you get that thought and have to stop it?
All right. Actually, there has been a video that somebody named Doug had done, and one of our friends, I think Jesus, posted it. And in there, they're talking about skillful means, and they use an example which we will do some modification on. And the example is that a dad goes into the house to tell the children the house is on fire, and they don't listen to him. And so he tells them, oh, there's a golden chariot outside. Go outside to see what the golden chariot is. And they all rush out of the house because of the golden chariot. And some will call that skillful means because it was effective, yet at the same time, it was a lie. He lied to his kids. And the answer correctly would be that those little kids who he can pick them up and take them out of the house. The kids that are too big and too old to resist being picked up, you tell them that there's a fire, and they won't listen to you until they recognize that they can't breathe and they're choking. And then they'll remind themselves that Dad told us the house was on fire, and they'll get up and leave on their own. So you can, in fact, this is the way that the Dhamma is taught, that you cannot tell people that you must practice anapanasati or the boogeyman's going to get you. Because nobody's going to believe me if I said that. And yet that's what Christianity is all about. You do what you're told to do in Christianity or you're going to go to hell. And all the kids will believe that and become afraid, but none of the adults believe it. So, threatening people just doesn't work. So, the answer then to your question, and in fact the answer to Thomas' question then is the same thing, is when you see that your house is on fire, you'll get up and walk out. Because I pointed out that your house is on fire. So when you're having thoughts of revenge, when you're having thoughts of anxiety, when you're having thoughts that are favorite thoughts, and you begin to recognize that that's unwholesome, only then can you do something about it. So basically, one of the big points about the teachings of the Buddha is that first noble truth: there is dukkha. Can you see it as dukkha? Can you see what you're doing as dukkha? Because if you can't see it as dukkha, you're not going to change. Now, going back to that story about the house burning down, a lot of people's houses are burning down. Their whole life is on fire, and they don't know it. And they're asleep to it, and they don't recognize it because nobody's pointed it out to them. So the noble Dhamma then is to point out there is dukkha. Look out for it. Start paying attention to the fact that many of the kind of thoughts that you have are really not worth having. That in fact, thoughts of revenge is downright unwholesome. Thoughts about the future also is downright unwholesome. Worrying about what's going to happen and planning on and getting 40 different ways of doing it, planning out your spiel. That in fact, when you're in the intensity of the moment, you carried that anxiety, you built it up, you carry it into that meeting or whatever, and then you're going to forget all about all of the answers, and you're going to be giving them an anxiety-filled answer. So the better thing to do when you're going to a meeting or going to someplace, maybe you're going to have to give a speech or on the pulpit or whatever like that, is to walk up there completely unprepared. Completely happy and joyful with the thought that whatever happens, I'll be okay. Now, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. In fact, for me, I'm not sure. But for Donald Trump, for sure, it doesn't work. Because he's actually, in a way, really already uptight. He's not prepared, but he's still uptight about it. And so if you've got anxiety and you prepare, that preparation is probably not going to do you a bunch of good because you'll forget about all the good plans that you made. So the better thing to do is beginning to see that right now, while I'm thinking about that meeting, I have anxiety about it. We can say, hot dog, right now, I can do something about it. If I can take that anxiety away now, and take it away a minute from now, and take it away an hour from now, and keep practicing that way, then when you get into the meeting, you'll go into that meeting relaxed. In fact, as you're walking into the meeting, you'll say, all right, I see that anxiety building up with every step that I take. Hot dog, I can see it. Let me take a deep breath, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 deep breaths. Let me get some oxygen in the blood. Let's get energized here. And then we can walk into that meeting completely relaxed. This is the way to handle it, but we got to practice in advance. And what you're saying, Thomas, is that you're practicing anxiety so that you'll be really, really good at being really uptight and anxious when you're in that meeting. Is that the right way to go?
No, but are you saying, when you said it might not go right, you have to, like you said, it might work or it might not. Mm-hmm. You have to let go of that clinging to it actually working, right? It's not right. So if you go into that meeting unprepared, what you're focusing on is, I'm going to be okay, whether it goes well or it goes badly, but you can't, it's not like it's a surefire way for it to go well. You just have to accept that it may go well and it may not go well. Is that right?
Right, exactly. However, if you're already an expert on the topic, it'll probably go well. And if you're an idiot on the topic, then it probably won't go well, which means then that there is a certain amount of preparation, prior knowledge, but we're not talking about prior knowledge. We're talking about building up anxiety over something that's going to happen, possibly because we're not prepared for it. So in another way of saying, maybe it would be better to prepare for the meeting rather than be uptight and anxious about the meeting if you're unprepared. In a way, you could say I've been preparing for the past 40 years for this talk today. Sitting on my butt in the back of a Watt, mostly without a book, but sometimes with one. Practicing being okay, everything is fine, not a worry in the world. And so you can walk into any conversation that way, and you'll be all right. You're not going to win every case, but in fact, in the position of the Dhamma, the success rate is quite low. The number of nobles that actually, let us say, of all the people who hear the noble Dhamma, generally only about 10% will understand it. And then there's another 90% of people who never hear the Dhamma, which means that now we're going to be down to about 1%. That in fact, I would say, in a way, our Sangha here has been extremely lucky. I haven't taken any surveys, but I have the feeling that we're much higher in our success rate than 10%. That in fact, the Sangha today is proof of that already. So Anna, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking that my other favorite bad feeling is nostalgia, but sometimes I feel like I use nostalgia for inspiration, but sometimes also drags me and makes me depressed. So I don't know how to handle those two feelings coming from nostalgia.
All right. So the answer to that is the same. When you can have those nostalgia thoughts and everything is beautiful, you're not going to change them. But when you see those nostalgia thoughts as not beneficial, not wholesome, not doing you any good, then you can change them. And once you decide in general that nostalgia thoughts are not wholesome, maybe because the Buddha said so, then you'll be on guard for nostalgia. And when it comes up, you can say, hot dog, I see that. And then you can do something about it. That in fact, I don't know about nostalgia in the sense of that word, but I do know, Gary, that the Buddha specifically talks about thoughts of revenge and thoughts of hurting people. Those delicious thoughts of getting even, getting our retribution, are actually harming us. And he recommends when you see that you're having thoughts of getting even, then you can say, aha, I see that, and then we can change it. Maybe you can change it into, I bet that guy's already gotten the revenge all by himself without me even having to think about it. He's already stuffed up, uptight, more miserable than I am. Ha ha, I've already gotten my revenge. Been there, done that. Or you can think of it in the other way. Some people call metta. Oh, I bet he's going to be okay. He doesn't need my revenge. In fact, my revenge thoughts don't even have any effect upon him. So whatever he is, he is. But our thoughts of revenge and thoughts of anger and thoughts of getting even and thoughts of harming someone is more likely to harm the guy who's having that thought than it is the guy he's thinking about. Look at your average Trump supporter. They're all angry and uptight. They have lost America. They need to get America back again. They got to make it great again. They got to make it white again. And they're going to be unhappy and uptight because they don't get what they want. And if they'd stop wanting America to be different, I mean, America is stuffed up simply because people want it to be different. If they'd leave it alone, it'd be okay. And so having those thoughts of revenge, boy, we're going to have a law. We're going to pass a new law that does blah, blah to XX. And we get all uptight with those kind of thoughts, but they like them. They like to have those thoughts of revenge. So, Gary, when you see those thoughts of revenge, can you see them as unwholesome for yourself? If you,
of course you can. Of course you can. But I mean, if you pursue the thought of revenge, it produces a thrill almost as good as that of pity.
right, exactly.
I mean, you know.
That's your average Trump supporter. They get really excited when one of these young progressive newsmen comes around and asks them questions. So that means then, do you want to build your life's success upon revenge? Or do you want to build it on, let us say, safety, security, comfort, freedom? Because in fact, that's a way of bondage. Those thoughts of anger and frustration, those thoughts of getting revenge is more of a bondage. They're stuck there. That's the only kind of joy that they can find, is the joy of harming other people. And if they act on that and go out and harm people, somebody's going to harm them back.
He that liveth by the sword, shall he not die by the sword? I think it's the biblical thing.
Anna, you got your hand up again.
Sorry.
All right. Jonas, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was actually wondering about these situations where it actually happened that you hurt someone, because like I was wondering, because it happened to me yesterday. I hurt someone, like a friend of mine, out of my like unwholesomeness, and how to handle these situations.
Don't do it. Be mindful in advance. Now that you've done it, now that you've hurt someone, you can be on guard for that. Now that you know that your house is on fire, you can pay attention to when you start to inhale the smoke of your own fire. So that's the way to handle it, is do it in advance. In other words, shut your trap before you harm someone. Be careful about what you say. And that takes practice. This is something that we can do. Actually, the whole point of the Buddha's teaching is that you've got to practice in seclusion, because in the heat of the moment, you don't have your act together, because the situation is, let us say, fearful and dangerous for you. And so, Thomas, going back to what you were saying, the way to practice being free from that anxiety about some future event is to practice being okay in advance. Just like a concert pianist is not going to walk out on the stage and sit down and play a concerto perfectly without having practiced. That's the preparation. We've got to be prepared. We've got to practice. And so in this regard, we've got two kinds of practices. One is to be prepared for the meeting by having the correct information that we need. And the other one is to get ourselves emotionally straightened out, getting rid of that anxiety. And so we need to do both of those things. Just like a concert pianist can actually walk out on the stage full of butterflies in his stomach, and he has practiced for years on this particular piece of music, but now that he's afraid of having stage fright, butterflies in the stomach, then he's emotionally not prepared for that performance that he's about to give, and he'll probably screw it up then. So we need both kind of preparations.
If I can quickly ask, can the preparation involve visualization about that future event, like a athlete or, as you said, a pianist. They may be both practicing their piece, but they may also be, as I guess, a pianist visualizing them, you know, out on the stage performing in front of lots of people. Is there a role for
the bows and having the people clap for him and all of that kind of stuff? Yes, would be kinds of visualizations. But mostly what we practice is the kind of stuff of basically using discursive thought, talking to ourselves, gladdening the mind, brightening the mind, so that the concert pianist can actually have a conversation with himself. You're going to be fine. You know that piece. Those people really love you, or they wouldn't have bought tickets to come see you. So you're going to be fine in that concert. So we need to prepare that way. And in a kind of a way, what I'm talking about is we need to do that for our whole life. We need to be prepared when we walk into Sears and Roebuck or 7-Eleven that we're going to be happy when we find that store doesn't have what we came for. So that we're not going to cause a scene. We're not going to have a tantrum. We're not going to throw merchandise all over the place because they don't have what we want. We don't have to throw a tantrum. We're no longer in knee pants or diapers. So we can get prepared for everything that happens in life so that whatever it is that happens, we're all right. We can handle that too. But that takes an enormous amount of preparation, which would be, when I say preparation, we're talking about repetitive practice of having wholesome, happy thoughts. For instance, Gary, if you have thoughts of revenge that are quite delicious, and you're going to hurt this guy and you're going to hurt that guy in the past, and then you walk into 7-Eleven and they don't have the schnitzel you want, what are you going to do with all of that rage and revenge that you've been practicing all morning? Are you going to let it out on the store clerk? Hope not.
It's pointless. I haven't got the big bat in my hand.
Exactly so. If you
Can I
take
throw-
revenge on them, they'll take revenge back on you. In fact, that's the law of karma.
Well, that's right. That's right, because that's what stops you from doing it. The knowledge that you might come up against somebody who will rearrange your face with his bat. So it's better to dodge, or it's better not to get into the situation in the beginning.
All right. I would say that would be the first step. That's what we actually mean in ordinary Buddhism is the sila, that we teach the children precepts. Okay, and then Christianity, they teach the 10 Commandments. The golden rule is for higher class, older people. But young people, they need to know that if they harm somebody, they're going to get harmed back. And so what you do then is that you do those thoughts of harming someone, but you hold back. So that's the kind of a beginner's way. If we can, in fact, practice correctly so that everything is okay and everything is fine, then those thoughts of revenge, when they come up, we can say, hot dog, I see that, and I'm going to put those thoughts of revenge away. Or Thomas, we're going to put those thoughts of anxiety away whenever we see them for what they are. They're harmful. That goes for you, Ivan, also, is to begin to understand what dukkha is. Dukkha is, in fact, our dissatisfaction. So when we're in a state of anxiety, we're in a state of dissatisfaction. When we're in a state of having thoughts of revenge, we're in a state of dissatisfaction. Now, the thought of the dissatisfaction being eliminated because you actually go and do the revenge is what ordinary people do. In the noble tradition, when we see those thoughts of revenge, those thoughts of anxiety, etc., we say, aha, I see you, and then change them. change them into wholesome, happy thoughts. So I would ask people in general, which do you prefer? Having thoughts of revenge then that you're not going to operate on, but it's good to feel like that you can see Donald Trump's head in a vice or whatever your fantasy is? Or are you going to instead come out of those kind of feelings and come back into right now everything is okay and everything is happy and no problems and no worries? Think about that for yourself. As I was saying about that house that's on fire, Daddy can't take those older kids out of that house because it's on fire. It's not even a good idea for him to lie to them about it. But when the kids can see for themselves that their house is on fire, they'll do something about it. And so this is the job that we have to do here, is to convince you guys to take a look at what you're doing so that you can see that it's unwholesome. And only then will you practice correctly to come out of it. Anna, you got your hand up again. Go ahead.
I cannot take it down, sorry.
Oh, well, whatever button that you clicked on the bottom, I've got chat, share screen, raise hand. That icon, can you say raise hand and click it? Just one click. Just one click. If you click it twice, it'll turn it back on. Well, you clicked the wrong thing then. You clicked turning your camera off. There's a button there someplace. So, getting back to the point is that practice requires repetition. I strongly recommend to everybody, especially new students, to take out 10 minutes at a time, about 6 times a day. This is only an hour a day. That's what they require at Goenka retreat. They require an hour from the Mahasi. They require an hour in the Tibetan. I require an hour, but breaking it up into small segments. In fact, I would say that 5 minutes, 12 times a day would even be better. Why? Because now it's more frequent and more frequent and more frequent. And this is what we need to practice, is over and over and over again, to remember that everything is okay. To remember that these thoughts are unwholesome, let's change them specifically into wholesome thoughts. Keep working at it. Keep trying at it over and over and over again until, as Ivan had mentioned, we're doing it throughout the day. You keep practicing, keep doing it throughout the day. Here's the funny thing about that practice of sitting for an hour. That means then that they're practicing in a way to where they have 23 hours of hindrances. Now, a whole life full of hindrances in the past, plus 23 hours of hindrances in the present time, is going to make for pretty slow progress. But if you can practice over and over and over and over and over again, then you're going to get good results. The Buddha talks about it in the sense of anapanasati, when practiced correctly, will give you great benefit, great results. We have to practice it over and over again. What is that practice? Most specifically is remembering to look at the kind of thoughts that we're having and then make a change to them. To remember, to look and to see that thoughts of revenge are unwholesome. Let's change them into, wow, that guy's going to be okay because I'm okay. I'm okay, he's okay. Thomas, when you have anxiety, you can say everything is going to be all right. I don't have to worry about that meeting or whatever. It's just going to be fine. I'm well prepared with the data. Let me be well prepared with my mind. Let me be free from anxiety. Wow, what a relief it is. See what this is. Don't mean anything. Okay. So, we're going to also talk about the breathing, because the breathing is kind of an important part of this. Normally, our breathing is shallow. The breath body actually is lazy, just like the mind is lazy in a way of, oh, well, I've got thoughts of anxiety, I've got thoughts of anger, I've got thoughts of revenge. It's okay, it's too much work. I've got to take the effort to change, and I'm not used to taking that kind of effort because I don't see the benefit yet. Well, when we're doing it that way, our breathing is not strong. So we really have to start paying attention to our breath. This is why the Buddha actually calls this practice anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. That in fact, when we talk about the various aspects of anapanasati, for instance, gladdening the mind, we do the gladdening of the mind while we're breathing in long, and gladdening the mind while we're breathing out long. Mindfully breathing as we're gladdening the mind. When we're developing the skill of feeling safe and secure and comfortable and free from anxiety, then we do that while mindfully watching the breath. Now, the breath has several benefits. One is that it energizes us. The more you breathe, in fact, if you breathe heavily over and over again, for instance, have anybody ever run and gone to what they call being out of breath? Where you're heaving, like this. How many of you have done that? All right. Ivan, when that happens, do you like it?
I mean, as I get my breath back, I will like it, I guess.
No, everybody says, I want to catch my breath. Let me catch my breath. All right?
Yes.
Let me
Yes.
stop that heaving that comes naturally when the body is completely out of oxygen.
Yes.
Okay? So, we don't like that heaving. This is why we do what is normally done in Anapanasati is work with the long breath. But there is a certain kind of breathing that's called the short breath. And the short breath actually goes in the direction of this hyperventilation, the kind of breathing that you do after you've been running or climbing stairs, you're out of breath and you need to breathe. The answer to that is if the body needs to breathe, go ahead and breathe. And in fact, help it breathe. Extend that breathing. Really help the body by getting it really energized. I mean, if you have the plan of climbing a mountain in your underwear, you gotta breathe. How many of you have heard about the Tibetan practice where the monks put their robes in ice cold water and then take the robe and put it on?
Tubo.
You've heard about that, okay? Somebody even knows the name of it. All right. Do you think that they're going to be able to hold their breath or breathe shallowly and be able to generate the heat that it takes to put steam out? Or are they going to freeze to death under that robe? They've got to get themselves hot. And the way that you get hot like this is by getting enough air. That in fact, any sport, one of the most important qualities of learning a really good sport is the ability to breathe. If you can't breathe well, you can't run a 100-yard dash. If you can't breathe well, you can't do boxing. And if you can't breathe well, you're certainly not going to be able to do Asian martial arts. Breathing is the most important quality of it. Now, if we are able then to see that the mind is scattered, wandering away, not able to stay on point, the anxiety is too much, and we're just uptight and whatnot like that, then it might be a good idea to start breathing heavily, or what we call in Anapanasati the short breath. Let me demonstrate. Okay, guys, do it. Come on, let's practice. Let's do it together. Follow my lead. Do it. Breathe the way that I'm breathing. Let's get all in rhythm. Come on, Gary. Come on, Carl. Come on, Lars. Breathe with the mouth. Come on, let's go. 5 minutes now. You're not going to drive that robe if you don't get hot. Come on, let's practice. Who's got the thought of how long are we going to do this?
How are we gonna do this?
Until you get good at it.
Sometimes at the end they hold the breath. Either they breathe in and hold it, and then breathe out and hold it for like a minute.
Well, let's do what we're doing. All right. So, how many of you now are beginning to feel lightheaded? How many of you are beginning to feel energized? Another point is that when you're doing this, how many of you are feeling anxiety about a meeting that you're going to go to? Gary, when you're doing this breathing like this and paying attention to the breathing and keeping it going over and over again, are you having thoughts of revenge? Unlikely.
No, but I would like to propel you a little beyond this point with a question about the fourth step of anapanasati, which is calming the body conditioner, in other words, the breath. Now,
in other words, relaxing. Relaxing.
Are you still breathing long, or are you breathing short, or what are you doing at that stage?
Breathing out long.
Right.
Okay, that's how we relax. So then we would take the session of breathing short, going back to the breathing out long with the emphasis on the out breath. Oh, what a relief it is.
Right. Because I was listening to a Dhamma talk by another monk, in which he seemed to be saying that you should at that stage be taking very short breaths in and out when you're calming.
Well, that's what we've been doing, except that I wouldn't say so. We've been doing, that's energizing the body. Taking these deep, short breaths energize the body. What do I mean by energize? It means that we're taking in oxygen. We're putting that oxygen in the bloodstream, and that bloodstream actually then starts to burn off all of the stuff in the blood that can be burned off. For instance, adrenaline can get burned off. What adrenaline? The adrenaline of anxiety, the adrenaline of having thoughts of revenge. And so we burn off that adrenaline, and then we can find relaxation after we do this session of the short breathing that gets us completely energized. And if you think of thoughts of revenge or you want to do something else, then never mind, let's go back and do some more of this. We didn't do enough of it. 5 minutes wasn't enough. 10 minutes. Was anybody keeping track of actually how long we did that? Nobody was paying any attention to how long it took. That's the way of time is that we don't know how much time it took. We're not watching the clock, we're watching our breath. But if you continue to do that, all of the problems that you've got will melt away, because the only thing you've got on your mind is, let's take that next deep breath. That's real mindfulness. That's why that short breath practice is actually part of Anapanasati, is because you can't hardly do anything other than just watch that breath. But the whole body will become completely energized. This is the kind of breathing that those monks do when they're drying that wet 0 degrees Celsius robe that they've just dipped in the cold, icy water. That in fact, the practice is, can you make that robe steam? Can you get the body so energized and so hot that it actually doesn't just melt or, let's say, dry clothes the way that the sun does, that the clothes actually throw steam off? Guess what? In order to do that, those monks have to breathe that short breath a whole lot longer than we have in this session. If they stop at the level that we stopped at, they're going to get ice cold.
Well, they also imagine a visualized fire or something.
Well, that's getting hot, isn't it? Visualizations don't work unless you've got the power to do it. So the Anapanasati, I mean, can you understand that somebody can't climb Mount Kilimanjaro in his underwear if he's only thinking about fire? He's not going to do it. He's got to get the body energized. He's got to get that fat burning off.
I have a problem with cold feet in the winter, but I wear battery-powered insoles times.
Start to doing some Anapanasati, you may not have to waste so many batteries.
But I don't know. I have to work at the computer, so I can't be just breathing all the time. But I don't know.
Why not? Breathe and then type, and then breathe and then type, and breathe for 3 or 4 minutes and type a paragraph and then breathe again. This is what Anapanasati really is all about, is can you remember to keep coming back to the practice? Can you keep watching this breath? Keep getting it back again. Ivan, you got your hand up.
Basically, what Lawrence was asked, I understand that sometimes there's just this, like people, sometimes I hear people set timer throughout the day as like they're reminding themselves to, okay, it's time to be mindful of the breath again. Like, is that helpful, right? Like,
yes, it is. That in fact, doing the short breath is quite helpful in helping us to remember to breathe. That in fact, I can work with you on the long breath and you'll forget all about it. But now that we've done 3 or 4 minutes of this short breath, you guys are going to remember this. You're going to remember that we did this. And so you can remember, and then you can start to practice. So whenever you feel tired, this is the practice to do. Whenever you've got thoughts that are really hard to get rid of, when you've got thoughts of revenge that are so delicious that you want to keep them, start practicing the short breath, because you can't do anything else but the short breathing while you're doing it. If you forget and start thinking of thoughts of revenge, you'll go back to the ordinary breath again. Same thing is true with anxiety. Thomas, got a question for you. While you were doing that breathing, and for quite a while after, where's that anxiety?
Yeah, I guess I wasn't thinking about the anxiety while I was doing it. I was
No, you weren't.
So the practice that's a kind of a diversion tactic, if that's the right way of using it or saying it. But then afterwards, I felt really calm. I've noticed, like, since 5 minutes since we did that, I kind of worked myself up a little bit, but now I feel there's a stronger sort of awareness, mind-body connection, I guess, and I feel quite calm. So and then you can revert to the longer breaths, right, to sort of just calm down.
Right. So it'd be returned to the long breath. Now, here's one point about that, and that is that when we're breathing this way, either the long breath or the short breath, both of those breaths have several qualities to them that is different than ordinary breathing. One is that ordinary breathing is absent-minded. Another one is that it does not energize, it keeps the status quo. Another one is that because we're breathing in a shallow way, carbon dioxide and other pollutions that are small, like amino acids when they're breaking down, including the residue of adrenaline, stay in the bloodstream and stay in the lungs. So when we start breathing, mindfully breathing, either breathing out and breathing in long or breathing in short and breathing out short, then we're actually purifying the body. That gives the body a chance to unload, take the garbage out, get rid of all of the buildup carbon dioxide in the body, and then in fact we can think better, we can behave better, we can act better, we have actually more wholesome thoughts when we're really energized. So if you get tired, if you're a slave at the desk and you're doing what you normally do and you get tired in the morning, if you will take the time to do this short breathing, you'll get yourself energized, you'll get all the pollutions out of the body, it'll help you wake up and you can do your job better. So let us say that you've got work to do and it takes you an hour to get the work done. If you'll take 5 minutes and breathe in long and breathe in short, breathe out short for 5 minutes, twice during that session, you'll be able to get the job done in half the time. Why? Because when we get tired, what do? We go off into a very, very shallow breathing and fill the blood full of a bunch of crap. That's what tiredness actually is when the blood is full of crap. And so we take it easy, we don't breathe well, but if you actually take good deep breathing, it will help a lot. So I would highly recommend, don't talk about short breath except on occasion, but since we had a question about it, if you keep doing this short breath the way that I'm telling you to do it, you can climb at least your own ladders in your underwear. You can at least climb stairs in your underwear. You can at least climb uphill in your underwear. Maybe you can even climb Mount Kilimanjaro if you can still keep breathing, even if your underwear is soaking wet. You keep breathing. Breathing long, get that oxygen in there and let that go. Here's an example of that. Have you ever heard of alligator wrestling? They do it with snakes. Mongooses do this with snakes. Reptiles don't have good breathing apparatus. They don't have a good circulation system. And so when the alligator is being wrestled and he's fighting, you see what, if you'll notice the way alligators do is they'll sit very, very quiet and wait. And then just at the right moment, they'll pounce and then they'll chew. But alligator wrestling is completely different. That alligator's got to get involved. And guess what? The alligator wrestler is doing one important thing. He's making that alligator tired because humans can breathe well and keep their energy up, while the alligator, his muscles are going to atrophy. They're going to get tight, and he's going to be able to not continue the fight. That's when the alligator wrestler then takes over. The same thing with the mongoose. If you've ever seen those videos of the cobra and the mongoose, what does the mongoose do? He's waiting there for the cobra to strike and to strike and to strike over and over again, and pretty soon the cobra gets tired, and that's when the mongoose comes in and attacks the snake. So that's what happens with humans that don't know about how to breathe. Ordinary people don't have the endurance the way that an athlete does. And you'd say, well, the athlete is trained. Well, what is he actually training? A lot of the training is in breathing. So I would highly recommend that you actually start using this application of Anapanasati. Start breathing well. If you breathe well, your endurance will go up. If you're sick, you'll get better sooner because you're breathing well. The body can repair itself when it's got the tools to do that. But if you feel sick and tired, then that tiredness is going to keep you sick. But if you start breathing well while you're sick, you'll get out of it. So, today we have talked about anxiety. We've talked about the mind and getting the mind free from the anxiety. And so we've done it in several different ways. With the long breath, in that long breath, we have an opportunity to see those thoughts so that we can change them. When they're in the short breath, we don't have an opportunity to see those thoughts because we're spending all of our time in the mindfulness of keeping that breathing going. In both cases, it's wholesome. So, if you're full of revenge, if you're full of anxiety, if you're full of crap, the thing to do is to start breathing. Either breathing long and pay attention to the crap, or start breathing short, and then you can't think of anything crappy. All right, so let's finish with this talk. How about you, Mickey? You have anything to say? Mikey?
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful talk, Dhammarato, and so glad to see so many friends here today. If y'all would, go ahead and check out opensanghafoundation.org. We've been improving the design and flow of the website. It's easier to navigate and find things now. And yeah, if you haven't yet, please sign up. Put your real name and a profile picture of yourself, and let's get connected. The Buddha, made a point of saying that the Sangha is one of the triple gems. So we've heard the Buddha Dhamma here today, and let's remember that it's worthwhile to be involved with Sangha.
Excellent. Thank you for the pep talk. Thomas with a TH. The one with who used to have a long time ago, deep so far in the past that we've forgotten about it, the anxiety. How you doing?
I'm good. I found that breathing exercise really helped, really practical actually. And I thought of another area. I often, in the middle of the work day, when you're on Zoom fatigue and all this sort of stuff, it could be a really great thing to fit into your day, Because at the moment, when I'm feeling tired, I go to YouTube and I just binge on probably crap on YouTube. So I'm going to try it like throughout the day and see how that goes. There's a different way of energizing myself after a long meeting or something like that. So I thought that was a really good.
Exactly. Very good. So Thomas with a TUO, how you doing? You have anything to say?
Everything is okay. I really enjoyed the short breath. That was a really, I have forgotten about it. So thank you for reminding me of that. That was really effective and energizing. Thank you.
Energizing, huh? All tingly. You keep doing it, you'll get, they call it hyperventilation, but really what it is all about is getting really clean. That in fact, that's akin to the piti, where the body gets completely energized. So you can go practice this longer than we did it together. Go set a timer and see if you can do this for 10 minutes. And in fact, I know a group of people who practice it for 45 minutes, but they normally need a guide. What do I mean by a guide? That means somebody who is sitting there with you, and as soon as you stop breathing this way, they'll say, do it, do it, do it, get back on. They start pounding on your chest and get you back into it. Okay? But I would recommend starting for 10 minutes at a time. Ben, you just joined us.
I've been here the whole time, but just without video. It was very good. Thank you, Dhammarato. I feel satisfied.
Just one question about the short breathing. I know in pranayama they recommend to do those energizing breaths with an empty stomach. Does it matter here? Can we do the short breathing for 10 minutes with a full stomach?
I don't care. The full stomach, I think, has to do with swimming. So maybe they'll think that you'll get the bends or something, but if you're sitting in your chair and you get the bends, you're not going to drown. So I don't think that the full stomach has anything to do with it at all. That in fact, here's one of the things is that if you've got all of this oxygen, you're going to have really good digestion on that full stomach.
Mm.
So Ross, how about you?
Me? Oh, Ross.
Yeah. Huey Chan.
Who?
I was just thinking the short breathing, it's a lot of people use it to get themselves hot. However, I'm in the middle of summer, it's like 38 degrees outside. I don't really want to heat my body up. I'm trying to cool down a lot. I don't know if there's a way that can help you.
So go take a cold shower and do it. In fact, this is something that happens. Have you ever taken a cold shower?
Yeah.
I mean, really cold? What do you do with your breathing when you're having a cold shower? Isn't it? Yeah, right. You start breathing.
That's what the Iceman recommends, but it's hard to get motivated to take a cold shower. He recommends to do like a cold shower at the end of your shower.
So, Carl with a C, how you doing?
Yeah, all good, Dhammarato. Good to be back. Have been a little bit off the Dhamma, but yeah, very, very good talk. Really appreciate it, and it was also very good advice. I think with this not being not over planned for being over anxiety with regards to meetings, and I think it's very just come unprepared, but in a natural state.
Well, be prepared.
Yeah, be prepared, but not yeah.
Right, don't be uptight and know what you need to know. And if you don't know nothing, then still be prepared emotionally. Say, I don't care. I don't know. You're the boss. You figure it out.
Exactly.
Ivan, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the shop, bro. Just thinking that I need to do more of that. That's all.
How about you, Anna? You're kind of new to this stuff.
Yes, I also enjoy the breathing. I got a little bit of lightheaded, but I'm doing good
Yes.
now.
Yeah. Go get lightheaded. What does that mean? Actually, what lightheaded means is that you're energized, you're full of pep, vim, vigor. You're really ready to go.
Yes, I'm gonna keep practicing.
So, Basil, how are you doing? Carl with a K, how about you?
I'm doing good, breathing well, just breathing, you know, the same old stuff, but feels new every time.
All right. Well, we got quite a crowd today, so if anybody has any last remarks, now's the time. Anybody's got anything to say?
Yeah, me.
Yes, okay.
I recommend, because I had already been doing the short breath sometimes, because I read about it on that book made from a lecture, from some lectures by, or some talks by Buddhadasa, Meditation for Serious Beginners, I think it's called. And it's online, and it talks about the short breath. And if I remember correctly, it recommends doing it sometimes at the beginning of Anapanasati. And I recommend people to check it out, because I found it interesting.
Well, it's a book to learn how to practice. I've talked often about it. Santi Carlo, when he translated that book, he didn't quite understand everything about the teaching of Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, and Bhikkhu Buddhadasa didn't speak English, and so they wound up with a title of Anapanasati for Serious Beginners. And I recommend don't be serious. If you're really going to get this stuff done, you're going to have to be lighthearted about it, but persistent. So I would say then we can change that from serious into persistent. Keep doing it. Okay, so anybody else got any last words? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Not forever, just until next time. All right, guys, thank you so much. Wow, what a crowd we've had today.
See you, Dhammarato.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Dhammarato.
Dhammarato. Nice
Thank
to
you,
see
Dhammarato.
everyone.
See you next week.
See you next week.